Welcome to Soul, Heart, Mind TV. I'm your host, Linda M. Blackshaw, and this is the very first episode of it. And today I am joined with my very good friend, Dr. Cushla Lovejoy, who has a PhD, and I'll get her to tell you what it's in because I can't remember at the moment. She is an author and a channel for the Divine Mothers, and I'm hoping at a later date that we can talk the Divine Mothers into joining us on YouTube so that you too can experience the wonderful energies that come through with the Divine Mothers. And she is a relationship coach, a mentor, a life coach, and she has developed this absolutely amazing technique called the Lovejoy technique, which is a multi-dimensional pattern release, and it's totally amazing. I'm hoping to actually learn how to do it myself, because it is such a, having experienced it, it is such a wonderful thing. Now, today what we're going to be talking about is the power of words and the power of our thoughts, because we are all energy and we forget that our thoughts are energy. So when we think negatively or we think nastily about another person, that energy actually flows through into our physical being. Now, many of you, I'm sure, sometimes have trouble manifesting what you want to have in your lives. And we all have friends who get it all the time. We look at them and go, she just says, I want to go on a holiday, and she wins a holiday. Or any other thing, they seem to be getting things and we're left on the sidelines. Why that happens quite often is because our thoughts aren't in alignment with our heart. And we're actually, there's a disparity between soul, heart and mind, which creates difficulties. And I want to say to you today, how is your day? What sort of day did you choose to have? Or did you just throw yourself into your day and hope for the best? Now, one of the things about Cushla is that she's severely dyslexic on several levels. And she has actually published 2 books at the moment, plus she has a short story coming up in a publication just before Christmas. So that hasn't stopped her. She's also had other medical issues and other issues throughout her life. And yes, she'll have been depressed, but she hasn't stopped. She's never given up. And I think in part, Cushla, it's because of your thinking. I think it's because of that thing that says, well, I've got to make a change. I've got to create the life that I want. Would you agree that that's helped you get where you want to be?
Yeah, I really agree with that. It's it's really easy to decide that you're the victim of whatever life situation, and we choose that because it's the most powerful position to be in. Because if we're the victim, no one can challenge us. We are in that place where we can say anything about ourselves, anything about someone else without challenge. If we are choosing to be responsible for what we say and what we're thinking, then yes, we are open to challenge. And that in itself is powerful. People assume challenge is based on the same type of challenge that we see in TV programs, which is abusive and dramatic and sometimes even violent. When in truth, challenge is caring and done in kindness. And when we are challenging ourselves, I've found for myself, when I challenge myself in kindness, that's when things shift for me. Instead of, why were you so stupid? Why did you do this? and replacing that with, okay, you don't talk like that to yourself anymore. You don't think like that about yourself anymore. How can you do it different? And that's changed everything for me.
It's interesting that you said that about your self-talk, because I've always thought of myself being quite non-judgmental and quite compassionate, until I actually realised I was judging myself and I wasn't being compassionate about myself, because I would go, you do something wrong and you go, oh, well, that was stupid, and that was, but you would keep it going. I mean, yes, we do clumsy things, and that's okay to go, oops, that was stupid. But our self-talk was half an hour later, I'm still back in that, I cannot believe you were so stupid. So that drew my attention to sort of how important our self-talk is, and how we can stay stuck in the old dramas, because the back of our brain is comfortable with that. And when we do try to make changes, it's very difficult for the back part of our brain to go, oh yeah, go for it, because it's thinking, oh, that's change, that's bad. So we do have to persevere. And I actually liken changing our thought processes to when we go on diets. Now, whoever went on a diet and it was successful the first time? Whoever stopped smoking the first time? If you managed to do both of those things the first time, then good on you. You were ready. You had made up your mind there and then that you were going to do it, and you were successful. So pat yourself on the back. But for many of us, we slip. We take a puff of the cigarette, or we go and buy the marshmallows or the cream cakes or whatever, and then spend the next week beating ourselves up over it because we didn't stick to the diet. What we should be doing is going, yeah, okay, I slipped, and then start again and go, okay, it's just a minor hiccup. Now, one of the things that many people, when they're trying to create something, they'll say things like, oh, I want to go to New York, but. As soon as you introduce a but into your thinking, it cancels everything out. You're not going to get it. Now, the other thing that is a real bugbear of mine at the moment is that some words, I think people have meant well, which is probably a horrible thing to say, because I personally think somebody who means well is probably being quite condescending maybe, so it's maybe not the correct phraseology to use for them. But on the internet at the moment, and it is geared more towards women, but I'm sure men may use it too, and they're the phrases, I am enough, and I am more than enough. Now, for me, I feel they are very limiting. They are still limiting. I know that they're supposed to be encouraging, that people have maybe come really far, and it's to sort of say, well, yeah, you've done it. But I really think it's actually quite a limiting thing, because we say enough is enough. And I'm quite sure that those mothers out there have actually screamed it. I know I did. So, that's what it is. And I really think that what we should be encouraging people to go is, I am amazing. I am great. And if you have to use more, I am more. Because we're always going to be works in progress.
That's right. It's really interesting how we limit ourselves by making statements instead of being in the question. When we're in that question of what can be more, how will my life be if I'm embracing more? Then what happens is that the universe has to tell you. This is the amazing thing. This is the incredible ability of universal energy and that universal mind that everyone speaks of. I can tell you one of the things that the Divine Mothers have spoken of recently. And it was quite funny when it got reported back to me. And they said, what's this mindfulness that everyone is speaking of these days? Mindful. Isn't it an openness of the mind that people are wanting. If their mind is full, how can they create openness?
Wow.
And so they quite liked the wording aware.
Yeah, that actually makes, that makes sense, and I think that's something that we really need to really look at, and particularly in our self-talk, because quite often we'll be encouraging to our children, we'll be encouraging to our friends, but we're less so to ourselves. And I think that we need to be aware of words that in our mind may not be limiting, but energetically are limiting. And I know that there's a lot of people who don't like using release, because they see it as you're releasing it and it might come back, so that you're not you're not setting it free. Whereas maybe using the terminology setting free, liberating, letting go is a much better thing. But I sometimes think that for some people, they get so caught up in the meaning of one word that they can spend time on that one word, when it would be much better being and doing and achieving than sort of like stopping and sort of like not moving forward. Now, sometimes we do need to stop. I think sometimes we do have to have like a breather, just to go, oh, wow, and actually reward ourselves for how far we've come. Because if you make one small change today, now whether it's to wake up tomorrow morning and decide to have a good day. Now, for people who are depressed, a good day is probably beyond you at the moment. But why not decide that for the first 15 minutes that you're up, you're going to smile, you're going to look at something that's positive. So I would probably advise you not to look at the news, because it is very depressing. But it's like, if you have that split, even if you just have 2 minutes where you feel lighter, you're going to it just go a little bit. Sometimes people think that they've got to just throw themselves into it and become this new person instantly. And I've got to tell you that we're works in progress. So no matter how far we get, there is still more to go. Now, my guides, and I did find this quite amusing, is that they don't actually like the term enlightenment. And I did ask why, and they said that because so many people think that they reach enlightenment, and they said you can't, and they would rather see it as bringing light to each moment, so that there's always more light that you can bring to each moment.
And that's why I often talk about, and I know that there are a lot of people out there speaking like this now, is this a heavy or a light feeling that you have within you? Is this, for you, if it's feeling light, then go for it. One of the things I find so much is the seriousness that people take their spirituality be. And at the same time we talk about joy.
Yes.
Joy is about happiness and laughter and lightness. And if you are being light, then you're actually experiencing what spirituality embraces. And for us to own that and to choose it is a really good word to say, because in our choosing, we've taken responsibility for the creation of it. And if you are wanting to be your personal power in action, then making choices and being in that question allows the openness for the possibility of that occurrence, which leaves you with limitless options. Otherwise, you've created an option or two options. And, that's really limiting.
Yes, I do agree with that. And I also think that what can be limiting too is that, say for example, everybody goes on about Mercury in retrograde and how heavy the energy is and things like that. Now, energy is energy. Sometimes it is heavier, sometimes it's more challenging than others, but I just go, oh, it's energy. And quite often everyone else is going, oh no, it's Mercury retrograde, this is happening, that is happening. And I'm looking at it and going, okay, what am I learning from this? What am I being shown? Why am I experiencing this? And I think for me, I actually hadn't realized how much all my life I've actually related to people on an energetic level. I just, I didn't wake up and suddenly become a Reiki master. I've actually been running energy and making people feel better all my life. I was the one that everybody came to and told all their problems to. And they had life experiences I hadn't had, but still they felt compelled to tell me about it, and they left feeling absolutely wonderful. And that was just energy healing. That was energy at work that I wasn't consciously aware of. So I actually find that, people will look at couples, for example, and go, I don't know how they get on, they're just so different. But when I look at them energetically, their energy matches wonderfully. Why do you think you have so many different friends? Because energetically, that friend brings something to the table that you need. And you do it to the same. And it's like, I'm good friends with Cushla. I actually, I describe her that we're soul sisters from the same pod. And so we quite often, we come from, I'm obviously Scottish. And if you didn't realise, Cushla is originally from New Zealand. But our energy is totally different, but it works really well together. And yet I have another friend who's not, she's gorgeous, but the spiritual path I'm on is totally not what she's into. But we can spend hours together. And it's because energetically our energy complements each other. And I think that's I think for me, that's how I have related to people. And I think that's why I'm so excited about the concept of thoughts as energy.
Absolutely.
I think that's
that's why I developed the multidimensional pattern clearing, the Lovejoy technique, was because of that thinking. We have a belief or a point of view that we believe is true, and that's often created through early experiences in our lives. And so we then create all these experiences to prove it true. And it's amazing how we do this. You could have a thought that you do not deserve love, and that may have been created very, very young. If you had a lot of other siblings who were younger than you, or even one that was younger than you, that required special attention. Now, there's nothing intentional from parents to give one child more love than another, though one child may have had more need than the other at that time. And so the other child can take this belief that they are undeserving of love. So their first relationship at school, their boyfriend, girlfriend, starts having a relationship with someone else and doesn't end it with them. Well, again, proved to them. They go into another relationship as an adult. Similar things. They go into jobs where someone does something that's underhand for them in their work. All these things say they don't deserve love. And so we've created that. And sometimes it's difficult for us to uncreate it, because we have to work on all levels of our being.
Yes.
And the multidimensional pattern clearing does that.
Yes.
It clears it on all levels of our being, for all times, all dimensions, and makes everything, everything within ourselves accountable for what we've created.
Yes.
And that's a way of clearing it so that we don't carry those thought patterns about ourselves. You know, you spoke about it earlier. I'm stupid. Why did I do such a...
Yes.
You know, we operate out of our stupidity sometimes. That is very different from being stupid.
Yes, that's true.
You know, I've done some things out of that, you know.
Yeah. I think too that one of the spiritual tenets that a lot of us were, I never took to it myself, was that we actually should be damping down emotions. Now, emotions are energy. Now, where we should be looking at our emotions is in our reactions. Now, if I was watching something and somebody cut somebody off and there was this road rage happening, and you have to ask yourself, are you really angry? Is that person really angry at the person that cut them off? Or was that just the last straw? So this poor person is actually getting the anger that's running from something that's absolutely nothing to do with this complete stranger. Because what we need to ask ourselves when we start to get angry is that, am I being angry because of what's happening now? Or am I being angry because I'm reacting, because this is taking me back to before? Because you have to acknowledge the before, but you do have to let it go. Because if you're living in the now, you deal with what's happening now. Not with what happened 10 years ago, because I happened to use the same phrasing or the same wording that somebody that had beat you up had done. And because we're looking at what triggers you. And sadly, it is often words.
And it's true, it's trigger. So it goes back to that, can you make me feel any way? No, you can't.
No, it's...
What you say can trigger how I feel inside. And we're very good at saying, this person made me feel, this person made me feel unsafe, or this person made me feel inadequate.
Yeah.
What happens is that they trigger, or we create a situation to prove that the world is unsafe.
Yes.
And so it's a really, really amazing opportunity for yourself if you can choose to clear that.
Yes.
Because often us saying it isn't enough.
No.
And we're using that enough word on purpose. It isn't enough. When we're clearing it from all levels, we create an unlimited possibility of the clearing. And, you know, it sort of sounds a little pretentious perhaps to call it the Lovejoy technique. That's been my last name. I also thought about it and I thought it's about love and joy.
Yes, yes.
So, because we really worked on finding a name that was workable with it. For many years, I've been doing this work for very many years now, and developed the Lovejoy technique 15 years ago.
Possibly more, because you and I have been utilising it, because we're a little bit like onions, because you peel back and you get rid of it and you think, oh good, I've mastered that, and then something else crops up. I had a particular issue when I was working on my Reiki Master Teacher, and I thought, oh, I've mastered it. And I was invited to take part in one of her sort of like Reiki 1s or Reiki 2 classes, so I could experience her teaching it and but also doing it again. And something cropped up and I thought, oh, there was something else. Yes, I cleared one thing, but there was still something else. So and this is why I said to you earlier on, when we began our talk, is that you don't stop. You never achieve enlightenment. Enlightenment is not getting to this, sitting on the top of a mountain surrounded by clouds. We never get there. Because we're emotional people, we still have more to learn, more to experience. What you will find if you start living a life of more conscious thought is that you will experience more joy in your life. And for me, the best thing is less stress. You will find you will only be stressed if you need to be stressed. I mean, because obviously if I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and I could fall over, that is stressful. Yeah, I don't particularly like heights, so it would be incredibly stressful. But sitting here wondering, oh, what would it be like? Why should I stress about something until it's actually in front of me and I have to deal with it? Why should I worry? Because if our worrisome thoughts can actually create what doesn't happen, or what does happen. So you can have that self-fulfilling prophecy in a relationship. You can choose somebody from here, and you know that person, you've chosen that person deliberately because you know that they're not going to be with you forever, because you've already sabotaged the relationship before it starts. Because it's like, okay, yeah, this is fine. And then, but when you're talking to friends, you're going, oh yes, I think this could be the one. But your head's going, well, it can't possibly be the one because you chose someone that's not going to settle down, or not going to, or is just convincing you what you desire. And I think again, it's that we have picked up, and I don't really like using the word, but I know of some people who go from one disastrous relationship to another disaster with the same type of person. Now, the second person may not beat them up, but they're still verbally abusive. So that they're still running that's what, but they've ended up with a mindset and an erroneous belief that that's all they deserve. And I think that's, and that's why it's very important that we start looking about how we talk to ourselves. It's nice to get external praise and it's nice to get external support, but you don't have to have it if you're doing it for yourself. And I think that's, and it's not easy, it won't happen overnight, but I think, that we can actually start looking at how we think. Pick one thought pattern that you have today that you can see that is holding you back and start making a change. And
the thing though so often is that we think we can do it on our own. And there are some really good coaches, there's some really good therapists, there's some really good people out there who are working traditionally and non-traditionally. I probably called that the other way around. Traditionally, to me, is the information that's been around since the beginning of time.
Well, it's actually the funny thing. You should say that, because I was actually thinking of traditional treatments as actually the indigenous and like so the long term, and I also think that we should choose the people that we go to.
We can.
Well, I think we do choose it, but I think we need to choose them on probably a heart and mind thing.
I have a slightly different thought, because I think, we have a gut level of thinking. We have our intuition, and it's something that, I've talked about in workshop a lot. Intuition, when it comes from your knowing, is very, very powerful. When it comes from our feelings, it's just a little bit shaky. Yeah. And we may disagree on that.
Well, I think we will disagree on that, because you know that I'm a more...
Yeah, you're a feeling girl.
I'm a feeling girl. And I'm an energy girl. So basically, I mean, when I say the energy, I'm probably saying it is my gut feeling.
Yeah.
You've got to go that energetically, that's the person that you relate to. And it is not... Like, so say, for example, you were looking at me and Cushla, and you picked Cushla over me or me over Cushla. What you're going is, okay, I'm drawn to that person. It doesn't make the other person or the other people or like the male or the female. You go to the one that's the best fit for you. However, I do want to say to you, pick the one that challenges you.
Absolutely.
Don't pick the one that just goes, they're there, or yeah, you know.
She's just been patting my leg.
I was patting her leg there, yes I was. But the other thing is interesting, I noticed this the other day, that sometimes people need to cry. And we're not actually, in Western culture in particular, we're not encouraged to cry. And I quite often, somebody will start crying and they're going, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm going, no, keep going. Let it out. You know, you've obviously, you feel the need to cry, let it out. You're in a safe space, do it. You know, I don't advocate that you're sitting on the train crying. It's a bit more embarrassing. However, if you do feel the need to cry, try and do it discreetly and just let the feelings out, because, you know, I think bottling things up is very bad. But I've just looked at the time and I think, oops. So have you got a last word, Cushla?
Really make your spirituality fun. Be in the question, because that is the most awesome place to be coming from. And just laugh a lot. I think laughing's really, it's a really good thing to get involved in for yourself. Life was, you know, there's a saying, life is hard. No, I disagree with that. And that's just my point of view. I say that life is easy. And, well, not necessarily easy, because actually I want to take that back. I'm saying life is one of ease. Life is to be experienced with ease, grace, glory, all those wonderful, wonderful emotions and experiences and being.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the humour. I'm going to share a story about Cushla just before we sign off, which was for those of you who don't know, I actually do intuitive readings. And this particular day I got a new deck and I hadn't used it before. So I used Cushla as a guinea pig, and she sat down and I said to her, this is really strange, Cushla, but I've been told to hold your hand. And basically I had to hold her hand because she was being told off. And if I hadn't been holding her hand, she would have probably walked away from the table. And it was so funny because what they said, quite often I find that when I'm channeling a message, the message is as much for me as it is for the person I'm doing the reading for. So we actually ended up, we had a lot of laughter that day, because she said, if you weren't holding on to me, I'd be out of here. And they basically said, well, we know. Yeah. So, you know, and there's humour. And you can actually have humour in sad occasions, because when I gave my husband's eulogy, I had everybody laughing because he was funny. He loved life. You know, and for him it was a great joy if everybody laughed, if he could tell a joke, and some of them were pretty jokes.
They were dad jokes.
Yes, definitely. But so thank you very much, Cushla. I will let you all in on a secret. Today was actually supposed to be recorded live, but I screwed up, and so we've still had fun doing it, and we'll post the video as soon as we finished. And then the next week's one at 11 o'clock next Wednesday will be live. I will do it live unless I lose my voice, in which case, well, I'll come on live and go and not say very much at all. But I do hope you've enjoyed my first episode, and even more importantly, I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss me when I come on. And I'm looking forward to actually interviewing more people. I have one or two people in the pipeline, Feng Shui, John of God, kinesiologist, and several other people that I am planning to interview as well. And as well as over the coming weeks, maybe doing some card readings, just whatever the spirit. And I'm certainly going to have Cushla back, and hopefully bring her with the Divine Mothers. Now in the comments I'll put down how you can contact Cushla. She has a web page, she's on Facebook. If you live in Perth, she's got an upcoming dynamic relationship workshop coming up. If you can't make that and are interested, go on her mailing list, go on her waiting list, or whatever sort of list that she's got, so that you don't miss out. And on behalf of Soul Heart Mind TV, thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.